true story or fake news? Murray is a top 3-point guard in the NBA.
See, here's why I say fake news. Because he's not really a point guard. Like, he plays the position, but the guy's a 2 guard. They just don't have a ball handler. And that's what I hate. Like, I wanted the Nuggets to go after Chris Paul before Phoenix even got him. I was like, this is a team that needs somebody. Or even Fred VanVleet, if they could do that in the offseason and move him off the ball a little bit more. You can have it be interchangeable and get, like, the great players in the NBA now, right? We're playing almost positionless basketball where LeBron brings the ball up. Durant's doing it. I mean, Jokic is playing point center at this point. But, I just don't even put him in that category. If you want to say, okay, in the lineup, he's listed as a point guard. I'll play that game, but I wouldn't put him over Steph because we haven't seen this long enough yet. I wouldn't put him over Jalen Brunson, who's been fantastic this year with the Knicks. I mean, he's just climbed. De'Aaron Fox went to the next level, and Kyrie, even though it doesn't make players or make teams better, he still plays the position. So if I'm going to go by those rules, I'm not going to put him there, but I don't even consider him a point guard.
One last quick thought on that Spoelstra-Popovich thing. Spoelstra's 52. Popovich is 74. So when it comes to seasons, if he can do it for another 22, Spoelstra, he's going to win a bunch more rings. Anyway, moving on to the point guard thing. You nailed it, Nick. Like, what's a point guard in 2023? Steph Curry. If we're calling Steph Curry a point guard, then not only is he the best in the game right now, I would argue he's the best point guard of all time. I think he's better than Magic. If we're both calling them point guards, are we calling Luka a point guard? Is Trae Young? Is Ja Morant? Like, what's actually a point guard? So I think that Jamal Murray is just and I'm not trying to cheese out or cop out or anything, but he's just a perfect fit for the team that he plays for. And I think that even if he would have been healthy the last couple of years, remember how good he was in the bubble? If you had a healthy Jamal Murray and if you had a healthy Nikola Jokic throughout the playoffs the last few years, they'd probably already be in the situation that they're in. We can talk about the other pieces that they have, right? The Michael Porters, the Browns, all these other guys. But, yeah, it obviously comes down to their two best players. And it's not always about top-end talent. It's about chemistry. It's about how well you fit. And I think we're finally seeing that the Jokic-Murray combination fits just as well as probably better than any other duo in the NBA.
And it's also, too, right, when you talk about the fit, it's because Jokic can kind of play point guard as a 7-footer at this point. So it's a little bit different. And that's really where the positionless basketball comes in, where you've got centers now that can run the floor like a freaking gazelle. I mean, we've seen Giannis do that plenty. Jason Kidd was using him as a point guard years ago, too. But you see players, it's not just like, okay, get the ball to your point guard. He's going to bring the ball up and set up the offense. It just doesn't work that way that much in the NBA anymore. If you have Chris Paul may be the last remaining true traditional point guard in the NBA. Now, if I'm building a team and you could just tell me, take any player in their prime and you're building this roster and it's all-time great team, I'm taking Magic Johnson at point guard because I want a facilitator and I want everybody else. But you know what I would do? I'd maybe take Steph and put him at the 2 so I get that shooting. So, like, it's hard to explain the point guard position in today's NBA because the position doesn't look the same other than the name that's actually labeled there in the lineup.
It's not hard, though. It's just better. They're better. Nothing against Jason Kidd, but Jason Kidd averaged, 10 points a game throughout his career? Nothing against John Stockton, right? All-time assist leader, all-time steals leader. Great player, underrated player. How many points per game did he average? Like, look, just because you have a guy in Steph Curry that can also go out there and drop 30, 40, 50 points any given night, who happens to also be the best three-point shooter on the history of planet Earth, doesn't mean that he also doesn't have the ball handling skills or can't pass. Same thing with James Harden. Yeah, he's won the scoring title 3 times. He's also led the league in assists a couple of times, and he averages double-digit assists for his last 7 years in his career. So I feel like the position of point guard, you can call it what you want. It's just gotten better. The players have just gotten better. They've been able to do more things. I know we're going to talk about later on in the show the uniqueness that players have kind of turned into. You already talked about Steph Curry and Nikola Jokic. The NBA has become completely positionless. There's no big guys either.
But wouldn't you argue, I mean, right, but now you also got centers winning MVP, and it's been a long time since we've had that, but yet Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic don't look like the centers that we had in the 90s. It's not necessarily even the players are better. I think they're also asked to do things differently. It's the same argument where people say, well, Jordan couldn't shoot threes. Well, if he came up in today's NBA, would he have worked on it and become a good three-point shooter? I mean, we don't know. Giannis has worked for years, and he can't shoot threes. He's gotten a little better. He's not very good at it. So the question becomes like, okay, Jason Kidd was actually a decent three-point shooter at the end of his career. Go look at where he is in the all-time three-point list. He's right near the top. So it's just kind of more of, back then, point guards were expected to be traditional pocket-passing quarterbacks. Now, point guards are Lamar Jackson. They're Patrick Mahomes. They're Josh Allen. They're mobile. They're able to do more than one thing. They can go score. They can shoot. They can also distribute and get other guys involved. The good ones can. The same thing with quarterbacks today, where they can run, they can throw. They're just super athletic. So it's an evolution of a position that is still vitally important, but like it doesn't look the same, and players are expected to do different things with it.
Jason Kidd averaged 12.6 points per game in his career.
Yeah.
That's
career. I was going to say that's career, dude, right? Yeah.
James Harden, when he won the scoring title, averaged almost 3 times the amount of points. And I get it; it's a completely different game. But yeah, you're exactly right. Like, guys are certainly asked to do a whole lot more. Whether you're a big guy, you got to step out and shoot threes, knock down your free throws. Yeah. Whether you're a guard, you got to be able to hit that shot like Steph Curry does from outside the three-point line. So a point guard today and a point guard 15, 20 years ago is a completely different human being.
Yeah, but James Harden, too, when he had the scoring title, I mean, he was looked to still really score first. Like, I mean, he had some assists, but he wasn't even really playing the point then. He kind of switched more to point guard when he went to Brooklyn. He averaged 36 a game in Houston that year. They were just like, go score. So he was like, he wasn't even a point guard, Whoa. But had the ability to pass. I know, it's crazy.
3
All
times
right,
Jason Kidd.
It's a completely different game. It's wild to think about. Ooh, I'm gonna let the Chiefs fan go first on this one.
Well, you confuse me because I'm not that smart with all that. Shouldn't be. But I can tell you this much: it's fake news if anybody thinks that Patrick Mahomes is not going to go. Like Joe. Here's the thing about Joe Burrow. I feel like people think that I'm disrespectful and I'm in this Chiefs bubble and I'm a homer and I'm maybe I'm all these things. Maybe I'm all these things, Nick. But but hear me out. There's clear separation between Patrick Mahomes and whoever you think is the second best quarterback in the NFL. And maybe you think it's Joe Burrow.
Yes.
Maybe you think it's Jalen Hurts. But even though Jalen Hurts had a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, guess what city had the Super Bowl parade? KC. I know it because I was there. Even though Joe Burrow beat Kansas City at the crib in the regular season, in Cincinnati in the regular season, in the postseason, they didn't go on to win the Super Bowl. Last time I checked, Mahomes has 2 of those things, and he knocked him out of the playoffs a year ago. So I was confused by the question, but I'll tell you this much. The gap between Patrick Mahomes and whoever you think is the next best quarterback, if it's Joe Burrow, is ginormous. We can argue, is Joe Burrow the second best? Is it Josh Allen? Is it Jalen Hurts? But the gap between 1 and 2 is significantly bigger than 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the rest of the list.
Yeah, I'd have to go fake news on this only because as much as I love the Bengals and Joe Burrow, I just think the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl again. I really do, because they're the one team that's equipped to really, already having the experience, go through the gauntlet of the AFC, go through a division. I think other than the Raiders, it's going to be better. We thought the AFC West was going to be the best division in football. It wasn't, but actually now could be a little bit better this year. I think Burrow actually is the MVP this season. You know, he's kind of climbed up. He's progressed, and it's not as much in the NFL as it is in the NBA, where it's like the next guy up. Lamar Jackson won it his first year as a starter. But this just feels like Joe Burrow's year to get that MVP, but then maybe he falls short in the AFC Championship game. Although, he could fall short to my Jags, Sean, in the AFC Championship game. So your Chiefs may not even get that far this year.
I think you're getting a little excited, although you are talking me into putting some money down on the Jags. The thing about Mahomes, I know we were talking about MVP, and you could argue they like to give it to the new blood. So maybe if they're similar stats, he does end up winning. It's a regular season award, so who knows? But I will say, with Patrick Mahomes, if you think about it, and everybody knows how great he is. He's on commercials everywhere. He is the dude. He is the best quarterback. But I still think somehow he's a little bit underrated. Just hear me out for a minute. So he's been the Chiefs starter for 5 years. He's hosted 5 AFC Championship games. And 3 of those times, he's gone on to go to the Super Bowl. He's won 2 of those. The one that he lost, he had a terrible offensive line. So I kind of even throw that one out.
Oof.
And those other 2 times, he lost to Joe Burrow, who's probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame, in overtime, and he lost to Tom Brady, who's the best quarterback of all time, in overtime in both those AFC Championship games. So let's not pretend like they aren't really close to winning 5 Super Bowls in a row for his first 5 years. I know it's crazy. As much as we talk about Patrick Mahomes, it's almost like we probably don't do it enough. Am I making you sick right now? Am I making you sick? Did you puke in your mouth?
Me fall asleep.
Am I wrong?
Making me fall asleep. You know, if
wrong?
the aliens came down and they only abducted 3 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and then you could get rid of this offensive lineman here, and you know, if the wind had only blown this way, then the Chiefs would have won all 5 Super Bowls by an average of 21 points. You just have to have 10,000 different things come together. I mean, come on. Look, man, you got 2 Super Bowls.
Over under.
I'm
over
with
under
you
5.5. How many does he win in his career? Does he get to 6? Does he get to Jordan? Does he get to Brady?
I think I take the under because you still have a lot of other really, really good quarterbacks in the AFC. Listen, I love Nikola Jokic. You know that. This is what I hate about situations like this where it ends up sounding like you're trashing one player. It's like the Jordan-LeBron debate. Trash Jordan for LeBron, trash LeBron for Jordan, and it's just mind-blowingly stupid, but it is what it is. I can't in good conscience choose any athlete in today's professional sports leagues across the board and say that they're more unique than Shohei Ohtani, the only player in the history of baseball that has been able to play 2 positions on a consistent basis. Now, I love Jokic, and I get it, right? This guy's a 6'11" dad bod that's out there playing like a point guard that can shoot from 3, that can go out there and get you a triple-double. But we have seen bigs before do that. In fact, who are the players that have more playoff triple-doubles and more triple-doubles in general than Nikola Jokic? One of the name is Wilt Chamberlain. Nikola Jokic is Wilt Chamberlain advanced, right? Like, he can score. He can go out there and get you boards. He can go get you assists. And he's doing it in a much smoother, better way in today's game. But we have seen other bigs that can shoot from the outside. That's what unicorns are for. We're about to see another, and Victor Wembanyama come into the NBA. We've never seen anything like what Shohei Ohtani is able to do. Now, I said this the other night on the show, and I'll say it again. If Shohei Ohtani was just a hitter or just a pitcher, we wouldn't hold him in this high regard. Great player, but not all-time legend, historic, could be the greatest of all time. Because of what he's able to do. If you look at his numbers, I mean, they're good at the plate, right? I think a couple of days ago, I don't have what it is right in front of me now, but I think he was, he was top 10 in home runs, then he hit 2 home runs. He was 70th in, I think, WAR as a hitter, which I know isn't everything, but it's part of. And you go down the list, RBI is only hitting 263 at that point. So, they aren't eye-popping numbers necessarily, but because he can do both so well, that's what makes him so unique. There's just no way that I can say anybody is more unique than Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, I think there's going to be more of that zone look that they provided in the fourth quarter, and I wouldn't also be surprised if they say enough with the double teams. We're not gonna risk our luck on Denver shooters, and other teams have had success with this. Phoenix played Nikola Jokic straight up. He had 53 points, but the Suns won that game, thanks in part to some historic offensive performances from Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat kind of go to that kind of look where it's, Bam, just do your best, hold on for dear life. If he puts up 40, he puts up 40. Let's take away, the open shots for Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more one-on-one play from Miami. I think we're definitely going to see some of that zone again, and I think the Heat also need to do a better job of getting all the way to the rim. It feels like they would take a couple dribbles and they'd settle for a 12-footer, or they'd take a step back. I think they need Jimmy Butler to just get downhill, take it to the rim, either get some easy ones or get to the foul line.
Well, they fleeced everybody in that expansion draft because they hadn't had the expansion draft in years. And that's where, Seattle kind of got hosed a little bit. They have to go a different way because everybody got smart. And because you think about, what the Florida Panthers gave up to the Golden Knights. That was Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault. Pretty big players for the Golden Knights organization, part of the original Misfits. I think Jonathan Marchessault is the leading scorer of this organization. Or the Minnesota Wild were also part of that fleece where they got Alex Tuck and then they signed Eric Holla because they wanted to protect Matt Dumba. And then you have the season that you did in that first year that starts in the preseason where the community comes together around that team following the shooting of October 1. And then just goes on this magical run where they just take everybody by surprise. And you have, the revenge game after game after game. And so I think when Bill Foley, the owner of the Vegas Golden Knights, saw what this fan base turned into after that first year, he's like, we got to go for it. We got to go for everything. And that's what their MO has been. And sometimes it's come at the expense of some of the most beloved players in this organization. Like Nate Schmidt had to be let go, had to be traded up to Vancouver in order to make room to sign Alex Pietrangelo to a big-time contract in that offseason after he won the Cup in St. Louis. Marc-Andre Fleury had to leave to make room for Robin Lehner, who hasn't played on this team this year because he's had shoulder surgery in addition to other things. And so they had to make additional moves on top of that. And then they had to send a big-time part of their lower lineup, Alex Tuck, and a big part of their future, Peyton Krebs, to Buffalo for Jack Eichel. But they go out and they're like, we need a number one center. There's a number one center. And the Eichel situation is kind of unique because he had that surgery and Buffalo didn't want to do it. And so it was just kind of an end to a means for both organizations. But I think this club is not afraid to ruffle feathers, and they're not afraid to go out and get what they need. And I think in the hockey world, conservatism is rampant, whether that's in messaging, whether that's in marketing, whether that's in the way that people conduct business. And so they're a disruptor. And when you're the disruptor, you're going to just have more chances to get better because you're simply taking more shots.